This is just a quickie add-on video to my other one on the climate control thing. I wasn't particularly satisfied with my console panel that I had cut out of aluminum with the plastic facing. So what I ended up doing was took a piece of sheet steel here and just bent it at the appropriate angle. And the hardest part of doing this is getting consistent square holes along the top. So what I did was take a piece of plastic that you use for trimming a house with, that you just buy at Home Depot, and I put it on a table saw and cut it into a square tube, and the squares were exactly the size of the holes in the original panel. And then I just, from that, I cut them like salami chunks, and so they're all exactly the same size, and I crazy glued them to my piece of bent steel here. So I have 5 of those to match the buttonholes. Did the same thing for the other holes up top, and that way I could get them, even though they look kind of half-assed here, they're exactly spaced apart and exactly the same size around. This is just PVC pipe, which, believe it or not, is exactly the right size for the 2 instruments, and glued those on, and then just got some more plastic trim stuff, bent it, and temporarily glued it on the sides to form the dimensions of the panel I need to replace. And then I used Bondo hair. It's different from the Bondo body filler. It's more like a fiberglassy thing, but it's got fiberglass strands in it, so it really looks like kind of hair mixed with mud. So mixed that up with the hardener, smeared that over the whole thing to a depth of a couple millimeters, and then let it harden. And after it had hardened, then you pop off the side panels here, and the whole thing pried up pretty easily. I did pre-treat it with a little Vaseline so it would release. So this is what I finally ended up with. It did turn out better than the previous model. So I have my very consistent holes here that the buttons fit into. It's just a piece of plexiglass with window tint film over it to try and match up with the smoked look that the other one had. And then there's my blower and AC switch buttons. I just bought some at a craft store. They sell stick-on letters and numbers. These were like 1/4 inch, I think. So I just stuck those straight to the panel. And then I still have my icons that I got off the internet. I think I did auto dashboard icons, and you get all sorts of stuff, but those are the ones I needed, and just printed them on stick-on paper, and boop, there it goes. So there's my rotary thermostat button. There's my switch for the pump for the water heater. And then my slider controls, which seem to do just fine. The trickiest part was instead of using the previous plastic panel off the Miata, I decided to try and actually cut the slots myself, which shockingly came out pretty well. And I'll show you sort of how I did that, but that's the finished design, and it actually looks pretty good and works fine. Okay, this is my setup for cutting those slots in the panel. I'm just using my drill press as a stable base, and I swung its platform out to the side, and the hole is just big enough to fit the end of a Dremel tool in. So I put the Dremel tool in the hole and tightened its collar from the other side so it was fixed in place, and it's just got a cutting blade on it. And then what made the whole thing possible was it's a vise but it has two-axis movement. So when you go up and back, it slides one way, and when you crank this, it goes sideways. So between the Dremel tool here and this, you could actually cut perfect slots, although I practiced on quite a few bits of plastic before I got the technique right. But came out pretty good, and that's the trick. The real thing is this vise, which I think cost like 40 bucks, got it off eBay, but having the vise that goes in two controlled directions really made it possible.